Students, and welcome to another week of what has been a pretty intensive look at improving your individual skills. I thought I'd take just a few minutes at the start of this lesson to bring you up to speed, just in case any students missed any lessons or they're tuning in for the first time. I think this is where the real fun and excitement behind all of the work that we've put in beforehand of filming, critiquing, and finding out what we need to improve on actually starts to take shape. I think this is the start of what you're really going to enjoy over the next 4 weeks in your sport lessons. And I'd really love to see that feedback being emailed through to your teacher, whether you are really enjoying this process or not. And thank you to those people who have already been doing that. Now, by this stage, I don't think that I should need to show you how to find this document. Year 9s and 10s have their own document, Year 7s and 8s have their own document. And once again, I do apologise for those students who have struggled to make sure that their document will save, and I applaud you for how well you've managed to just take some screenshots or photos and email those through to your teachers. So very quickly, we started off by looking at fundamental movement skills, the basic movement skills, things like walking, balancing, running, etc. And then what we did was we started to say, okay, where do we see these fundamental skills in our sports that we either love to play or have chosen for this term? And we started to say, well, how good am I at some of these basic skills? So we filmed ourselves, we critiqued ourselves. Did we hit the component or not? Whether it be taking our step forward or keeping our eyes on the ball for that kick. And then we started to look at, okay, what fundamental movement skill is important for my sport? And we picked another fundamental movement skill and did the same process. After doing that slow motion filming and being able to check where we were at, we started to review and understand why is it important to have those real basics of things like throwing, catching, kicking, running, walking, balancing. Then we start to move into those specialized movement skills. So instead of throwing a ball, it was hitting a racket with a shuttlecock with a badminton racket in badminton. It's the same arm motion, the same balance in the body as what throwing is, and yet you're using a very specialized implement like the badminton racket. And so from that point, we needed to actually look at the differences and similarities between specialized and fundamental movement skills and create a circuit that focused on both fundamental and specialized movements. After that, we started to move into how well are we able to perform our specific movements for our sport. So, whether that sport be cricket, where we saw Mr. Murphy performing some of his cricket shots with his cricket bat, we started to film ourselves completing the same motion as what we did with our fundamental movement skills, now with our individualized and specialized movement skills. And once we could find out what was going wrong, where were we actually scoring ourselves as not yet competent or not yet able to complete that movement, we now got into this section, and this was the end of your last lesson. And for anyone who's just picking this up for the first time, it's still a really good point to just initiate yourself into this sport lesson. So, what were the components of your individual skill for your specialized sport that you wanted to improve on? What equipment would you need? How do you create a warm-up, skill practice, and cool down? Now, I'm not going to go into detail on that. I've provided a link to Mr. Murphy's work from last week for anybody who needs to write this session up and hasn't done so already. So this is where we're actually up to now. You need to participate in 4 practice sessions and complete a reflection at the end of each session. So today is your first practice session. So whichever specialized movement skill you have chosen for your sport, the component you wanted to work on, what you designed for your warm-up, how you plan on practicing it, and what you're going to do for your cool down, please refer to Mr. Murphy's video for that one. I want you to complete that 25-minute session. At the end of that 25-minute session, you're going to complete filling in this box for practice session number 1. And that will do us for the end of this session. However, what I would like to do after that is I would like to ask you to start thinking about a couple of things. If your session was too easy, if you don't feel like in your session you practiced that skill or the individual component of that skill enough, then you might need to make some changes to your session ready for next week. Because the plan is that across the next 4 weeks, you're going to complete this session in an effort to try and improve your specialized movement skills, in particular the components that you found yourself weaker on when you filmed yourself in slow motion. So hopefully when we do the filming ourselves again in 4 weeks' time, you can see some real improvement, especially in the area that you needed to have that improvement in. I can't stress the importance of the warm up and the cool down to make sure that you're not injuring yourself and you're staying fit and healthy and active. And because this session is only going to go for that 25 minutes and then the reflective part, I would ask you to go outside, get some fresh air, go for a walk if your parents and guardians will allow it, because it's still really important to make sure that you're staying as healthy, fit, and active as possible. And don't forget to keep drinking water. We'll see you soon.